Welcome to The Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a show that is a central hub and safe space for authors to share their stories. The Bold Book with Dr. Denise begins now.
Welcome to the Bold Book of the Day. My name is Dr. Denise Nicholson, and this podcast is for anyone looking for inspiration. Today, I have the honor of interviewing the author Diane Young. She has written a memoir, Wilderness Woman. Triumphant Spirit your Triumphant Spirit is incredibly raw. And I am so grateful that you were able to write this powerful memoir. Please welcome to the podcast, Miss Diane Young. Come on in.
Hi, good morning, or I should say noontime.
We did it. Yes, so Diane, please tell me, what is your story and why was it important for you to share?
Well, I think the most important reason I wrote this memoir is because I wanted people to know that they're not alone out there, and we've all had hurts in our lives, and some of us have had a little more hurt than another person, but
Mhm.
make any difference. It's just that I want people to know that I'm giving them hope. That's the reason I wrote my book.
So, what is your story, Diane?
Well, the Wilderness Woman is because I named it that at the beginning. My safe place in life has always been outside in any kind of weather, cold, hot, whatever. And the wilderness has been my safe place to go since I was a child. Uh, I've been in, I don't know, out in the woods almost all my life. And I think everybody has a safe place that they choose to be in. And that part of the subtitle of my book is A Triumphant Spirit. I write about how I overcome all these obstacles and all the abuse and things I've been through.
What was your childhood like?
Well, I have a page on the back side of my book, and it talks about how I had a lot of struggles from birth, mainly from birth through 4 years old. My grandparents and my father were terribly bad to me in all kinds of ways. And my mother, after I was 4 years old, she divorced. And then for the next 14 years, she continued to be abusive to me, mentally abusive, and all the different things. But my grandparents and my father molested me as a baby and as a toddler. And so those 4 years in developing of an infant are the most important. And so thus I had a pretty rocky way to enter life and didn't know how to play with kids. I couldn't go to anybody's house to play, and they couldn't come to my house. They kept the big secret, and I was the secret.
So, what was going on? What was the secret that you were that they were that the others knew that you didn't know?
Well, of course, I had nothing good to compare anything with. I thought this was normal for them to treat me this way. I never, as a little child, you don't have the mindset to think about what other people are thinking. But my grandmother set the scene and groomed me with uh, jewelry and things and chocolate covered cherries. She had these conveniently in her house. My mother was a beauty operator and we lived up the street. My mother would go to work and she would send me down there to the grandparents. And so the stage was set. And then, of all things, the grandma had a new puppy. And so that was what kept me coming back and looking forward to going down there to play. But it was just a really evil way to treat a child. And these people had to be crazy, you know. Insanity can't be explained.
Hmm. Wow. It seems like to me, everyone was in on it that, you're being mistreated. Do you think everyone knew, even the parents of the other children?
No, I don't think anybody knew about it.
Mm,
Uh, I looked just like a normal kid in grade school and
mhm,
kindergarten. And but when my mom divorced and went to live with this older lady that had also raised her, uh, she heard my mom and saw the things she did to me, and she never told anybody. So there again, for the next 8 years, I guess, till I was about 12 years old.
mhm.
My mom remarried when I was about 12 years old, and my stepfather, saw the way she treated me, but so much damage was done to me before that time that uh, I had no idea the load I was carrying in life and the post traumatic distress syndrome that has already been flood, thrust upon me in my life. And I had no idea why, when I was 26 years old and married and had my children, I couldn't figure out, well, why in the world am I so angry? Where's
Mhm.
all this coming from? So that's how I got into therapy, talking to my pastors for a few years and sharing with them a little bit. But I never brought up the abuse and all behind the scenes.
Wow. Diane, did your stepfather try to help you in any way when he saw how your mother treated you?
Well, I think my stepfather was sort of half scared of his wife.
Mm,
Uh, she was a Spitfire lady. She was real short, but she was really a powerful image in my life. I towed the line, but the only time he helped me was with when I was able to buy my first horse. He helped me get a pasture, and he built fencing and different things like that.
mhm.
Um, then I would get stuck with the car up there in the mud and being up there with the horses, and he'd come and rescue me and didn't get mad at me ever once. He was
Oh,
very
wow.
so, but he didn't realize the load that I was carrying all this time, and I never shared it with anyone.
Mhm. You have been through some unimaginable trauma, and what's worse, it was at the hands of those who were supposed to protect you, supposed to put a shield around you, who you are supposed to trust. What do you remember most about how that pain shaped your early sense of self?
Well, I describe in the book these people, my abusers, owned me like I was a piece of property. They owned my body, mind, and my soul. And my mother would switch me on Saturdays and Saturday until my legs bled, and so I couldn't go to church the next morning. So it was very confusing, uh, Christianity, to understand how the Lord helped me in my life. But I sat on my book for 30 years. I had the manuscript, but I had no idea, that um, going through all of this, repeating these things in the publishing area, and going through all of these, repeating these visual and the feelings of all of this happening in my life wasn't the best thing for me, healthy for me to do. But I was determined I was going to get this book written. And sure enough, I've had two or three people come up to me and say, "Oh, my land, Diane, the same thing happened to me."
Wow.
So that I thought, well, you know, I wrote the book and I thought, wow. And that's the whole thing, that uh, if we share, get courageous and share what's happened to us, it might help somebody else. And sure enough, it has. And that's the reason I wrote the book, The Wilderness Woman, A Triumphant Spirit.
You there's a powerful moment in your story when you describe the silence that surrounded your abuse. How did breaking that silence begin to shift your healing journey when you're speaking to other people and they're saying, wow, thank you for writing that? That happened to me. How did that shift your healing journey?
Well, uh, it took a lot of courage for me to begin to do therapy and do talk therapy. And then once I got into therapy when I was about 35 or 40 years old, right now I'm age 84. So many years ago, I mustered up the courage to go to counseling and see what can we do in counseling. And I ended up doing a lot of talk therapy. I did a lot of healing of the memories. I did a lot of anger therapy, where
Mm-hmm.
you lay on the mattress and you pound it and you scream and you yell until you think you're going to die. But then I didn't die, but I worked up a sweat. I felt better when I left the room. I left the therapist was there with me, and she guided me into these exercises to clear out the cobwebs in my mind and be able to help me have better resources and have better skills that I can use that are positive, and that I can keep chipping away and getting better to have a better legacy to pass on to my grandchildren.
Yes. When did you ever realize that what happened to you wasn't your fault? When did you first realize that?
Well, in therapy, I I don't know. It took a long time to get to that point of I didn't cause this abuse to happen to me, but I know I've heard this saying about there's three different ways that we work through this. We either freeze, which I froze,
Mm-hmm.
and at the time, especially when they were molesting me, or we can run away. But I was a little baby, I was a little toddler. I couldn't run
Um,
and I couldn't fight them. I'm not strong enough to fight them, but but I did use the strength technique in my life that I shouldn't do this, but I pound square pegs in round holes as my technique in living. I still have this thing where I need to pound the square pegs into the round holes. I just need to hit it harder. So I
mm-hmm.
need to take a deep breath and relax and say, no, you don't need to be this way. Just calm yourself down and just take a deep breath and relax. And the Lord has always been there. Sometimes I have to look at the things after the bad experience that I have passed
Mm-hmm.
in present day. I look back and I always see the Lord has worked with me and has protected me and has brought me through whatever the experience I'm having that's been very difficult. And so I always go back to that's how I'm here alive talking to you today. The
Yes.
Lord saved my life, literally.
Yes. Yes. You spoke about being angry as a young mother. How did you begin to break the generational cycle of abuse?
Well, I'm glad you said that because my grandma, my good grandma, came from a divorced situation. And so, thus, my mom was a product of the divorce, and she was mad and angry, and she passed it on down to me. And we
Mm,
got three generations here where we got a lot of anger, a lot of frustrations, but none of those previous people addressed or checked out why are they so angry? Why do they want to take their anger out on their product, their daughter and granddaughter? And so I thought, well, when I was about 26, like I said before, I had no idea why I was so angry, but the stress of having children and probably postpartum depression.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure I had that, and I had anxiety. But I noticed, well, why am I getting so angry,
All
and
the time.
why am I like this? But I I had no idea the load I was carrying. So that's
Yeah.
why I started talking to pastors as the years passed, and then got into thank goodness got into um, my counseling with my. I had good and bad counselors throughout my life, and
Mm-hmm.
quickly learned, no, we don't want to go with this counselor. We want to get a different person to talk to. So I at least had a mindset enough to know what is good counseling and what is not good counseling.
You describe your healing as taming the dragon rather than slaying them.
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you share what that means?
Well, uh, I think, you know, as the wilderness woman, of course, you think you can uh, jump from high buildings like Superman or something. I can be Superwoman, but I need to realize, let's get back to reality here. Don't think so wild of yourself. Calm yourself down and go ahead and start peeling off the layers of this onion, being that all of this junky stuff. And some of those layers you peel off of them does make you cry when you're cutting onions sometimes. So you just gently peel off each layer, and the counselor keeps saying to you, Diane, you're really doing a good job. Well, I, of course, didn't feel like I was doing a good job, but it
Right.
helped me to get into the deeper areas of all of this abuse and get down to the core issues of why I am like I am. And now I really like who I am, my warts
Absolutely.
and all.
Absolutely, because you did not cause any of this. So your underlying goodness is still there. All of the beauty that is within you is still there. Your lovingness is still there. Your nurturing is still there. All of the caring is still there. You can be an amazing person despite the things that try to overcome you, but you overcame because you sought therapy. A lot of people are afraid to seek therapy because you mentioned that you had to figure out which one worked for you, and a lot of people, they just don't even want to get started because they,
Oh,
yeah, they're
yeah,
afraid.
right, right. Well, they have reasons to be afraid.
Hmm.
Well, one of the things I did, uh, oh, I don't know, it's about mm, 50 years ago, I'd say, I started going to support groups. And I
Hmm.
might suggest that someone out there that if you're dealing with these issues, just go to the support groups And really, you don't have to say anything. You just say, I
Listen.
pass, and
Uh-huh.
listen to what those people are sharing. And then you'll gain a little confidence. And each time you go, you'll be able to, okay, you'll be sweating like crazy when you get ready and you're nervous, but go ahead and stick your neck out and just see what happens. It's going to be a very nice, pleasant surprise, and you'll be proud that you did that.
Mm-hmm. You'll find your voice. Just
That's right.
start by listening and by hearing others share their story. It will empower you. I remember when I was a hairstylist in the beauty salon, and I just started to listen to the people that came in and the women who had they're different issues, but by listening to them, it empowered me to talk about the things that I've been through. So I agree. I believe the first step is just to get in the door and start to listen to others who've been through the things, similar things. Maybe it's not even as similar as the same sexual abuse, but it is abuse. So
Right.
just start to listen, and once you start to listen, you'll find your voice.
Correct.
One of the most powerful moments you share in your story is praying for your mother's death as a child. Things must have been really, really bad
Yeah.
because children usually love their parents despite the harm that they bring them sometimes. So it
Mhm.
must have been desperately bad for you to pray her out of your life. What helped you process and release that kind of complex pain?
Well, I remember sitting at the piano. I was playing the piano while my stepdad and mom had gone and run some errands.
Mhm.
And I just kept playing along. And in my mind, I was thinking, I hope they have a car accident. And I got to thinking, oh my, I wouldn't want my stepdad to be hurt, but I hope my mom gets hurt and she passes away.
Mhm.
And I thought, I didn't even feel guilty. I was a teenager. I didn't even feel guilty that I thought those thoughts.
Mhm.
And then, of course, uh, they come home and everything's fine. And but there were times where, I mean, I never told her how much I hated her, and all the she did mention one time that she knew that she should probably see a psychiatrist or a psychologist herself, but she didn't have the money, so it felt like she's making excuses for the way she is. She realized how bad she was, but I
Mhm.
never did tell her how I felt about it. I was scared to death of her all the time. And so, but of course, the Lord knows my mind and He knows my thoughts.
Mhm.
And I pray He forgives me for thinking those things. But I think it's quite natural for
Mhm.
someone that's been abused to think about. I never thought about me killing her, but I just hoped that something would happen to her but if something did happen to her, I still had those memories of how she treated me and how
Mhm.
other people treated me. So I can't get if I tried to get rid of all of those people that hurt me, I still have the scars that I deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, you can't, I still have the scars today, but I'm able to deal with it and know that for some reason the Lord has kept me here on the earth for 84 years.
Mhm.
I think part of it's because I wrote this book.
Yes. This remarkable book that has provided some tools also for people who are going through their struggle, the memory of their abuse, how they can triumph through the art of healing.
Well, I might mention that my website has a
Mhm.
lot of information on it. It's the Wilderness Woman, a Triumphant Spirit
Mhm.
wordpress.com.
The Wilderness Woman .wordpress.com.
Yeah, it's Wilderness Woman, a Triumphant Spirit .wordpress.com.
Okay, that's your website.
That's right, correct.
Your story is incredible. Man, I can't believe the things that you've been through, but how you came out of that is because of your faith, your God moments, like you call them. Um, what do you, or what did those signs mean to you now and then?
Well, I I've tried. I don't know if I can ever come to the point where I've tried to forgive my abusers, and the Lord knows in my heart, He knows how much I want to forgive those people that have abused me. But
Mm-hmm.
there is that part that hangs on me that I don't know why I have to forgive them, but uh, I have done some things in my life, maybe not as bad as they did, but I have to ask the Lord for my forgiveness to Him for the things that I do that are not right and are completely wrong, and own it, you might say, and say, "Yes, Lord, I need to go make amends to my boys." When I first started my book 30 years ago, I sat down with each of my sons separately and asked them to forgive me for my treatment of them. And I thought, well, I wasn't near as bad as my mom, but I still needed their permission to write the book and change the names and circumstances in the book when I wrote it. And they gave not my blessings, but they gave me permission to go ahead and write the book.
Mm-hmm. Diane, you know, I've heard many quotes that encourages forgiveness because forgiveness is such a powerful tool, but it's not about excusing the people who have done us wrong, but it's about freeing yourself from the burden of carrying the pain. So, have you forgiven those people?
I think that's up to the Lord to forgive them. Of course, to truly forgive them, and I think the Lord will make right all of this mess. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what He has in store for them. I believe in heaven and hell, and at times I have hoped they were in hell, but yet I go, no, no, I wouldn't want that on anybody's life to be tormented in hell for eternity. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So that's the Lord has a way of making things right in the end. I don't know what's in store for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's their decision and that's their responsibility and way they live their lives. So
But
I
you found peace. You have found peace and you've let go the bitterness because you've said that you have healed. You've gone through many different healing processes and you feel like you've healed. Have you found peace?
yes, definitely. Um, I don't have the anxiety that I used to have. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have the depression that I used to have. But also, I still am on medication with a psychiatrist for the depression and the anxiety. Uh, I don't know that I don't think I'm ever going to get over this treatment that they threw on me, but I get I have a peace there that it's the peace that only the Lord can give me at this point in my life. And, and look back and say, man, how in the world did I make it? Well, I keep going back to the Lord saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I want to share with anybody out there that needs some hope. I want to give you some hope out there and courage.
Yes. Thank you for sitting down and finally penning the book that is going to give hope and inspiration to someone else, someone who has lost their voice, someone who feels that they don't deserve this, and why, this thing has happened to them. There's no answer, but I do know that one of the ways to heal is to forgive, because the more we uh, think that we can control a situation by holding on to the power that we think is unforgiveness, it is that thing that is burdening us even more, because we think that we have the right to hold on to that unforgiveness when it is just tearing us apart and causing us more turmoil, more anxiety, more sadness, more depression. So thank you for just sitting down and deciding that you're going to pen this book. Now, what helped you to recognize that your book was very necessary?
Well, you know, I here lately I've been saying, I don't know if it's going to be appropriate or not, but I'm saying I'm glad that I went through all of this mess that I went through, because I know sort of what someone else feels somewhat. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know completely. Everyone has had different types of things happen to them that's affected them in negative ways. But now I can just sit. I work in the prayer room at my church, and the best thing I can do is just sit and listen to what they have to say.
Yes.
I don't come up with any wonderful conclusions or uh, answers to the problems, but the best gift you can give anybody is just to listen. And
Mm-hmm.
so then when we have a couple comes in and I find out that their child has been abused by one of their caregivers, or not caregivers, but one of the family has been abusing their children, I can kind of nudge them in a direction to get help
Mm-hmm.
child and for them too. So I kind of know, what to do. I feel like I am a mandated reporter,
Mm-hmm.
not an official Division of Family Services person, no, but I need to get the word out there. We need to do something. We need to speak up when you see something or you hear something bad. Go to
Absolutely.
the police or go to the school counselor where the child is going to school, or go to the Division of Family Services. They're mandated reporters.
Mm. Thank you. This has been a very heavy story because you are bearing your heart, and it also is a reminder that we need to protect children. We need to listen to them. We need to, and sometimes children don't have the vocabulary to explain the trauma, the hurt, the pain, the abuse that they're going through. And so we need to have these conversations with them of what is right, what is not right, what is proper touch, and what is inappropriate
Right,
touch.
right,
When I was very young, I was molested also. And so but I didn't have the vocabulary to explain what happened to me. I knew it was wrong and it bothered me for a long time. But had I had someone who would explain what's proper touch and inappropriate touch, maybe that would have given me the words, the vocabulary to explain what I had been through, and to ask, is this a good touch or is it an appropriate touch, because it didn't feel good to me. So I
Right.
think that parents have a responsibility and adults have a responsibility of teaching children how to speak up, because sometimes you can't, they can't stop what's going on. They're young, they're children, they're powerless, but at least they have a power in their voice if we encourage them and give them the freedom and the autonomy that they need to articulate what it is that they're going through.
Yes, I agree. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry that happened to you. At least, I had escape early on, but you constantly had to live through more abuse from your very own mother. And that's really disheartening, because everybody needs a place of safety. Every child needs a place of safety. So just to know that you couldn't even have a sanctuary, a home of sanctuary, of a place where you can just be, you know, it's hard for me. But thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Um, what's the most important message you would like for the audience to take away from today?
Well, I've stressed periodically through this interview uh, that you're not alone out there, folks. You're not alone. And you may feel alone, of course, but you're not alone. There are good people in life.
Yes, there are good people in life. Yes. And you mentioned how caring your stepfather was, and that he didn't yell at you when you expected him to yell at you when you were stuck in the mud or stuck with the car, and he did not, because he already had an idea of the burdens you were carrying. He didn't know everything, but he understood that this child is carrying a heavy burden. So he's not even going to overwhelm you anymore.
No,
And
no.
that's beautiful. Did you ever have a conversation with him about your abuse at any time?
No, I never spoke to him about anything ever. Uh, I was kind of afraid of him, being that he's a male,
Yes, yes.
and I was
Suspicious of him all the time.
right on guard.
Hmm.
So, but also way back when, here we are, the grandmother being a female. How
Hmm.
could a female grandma do this, fix the scene for her grandchild to be abused,
By her husband?
Uh, no,
Who was
uh,
she fixing the scene for you to be abused by?
herself and my grandfather and my father molested me down at their house while my mom is at work. And so I always thought back, how can a female, being a grandma, do this to another female,
Mm,
me, little child? And I always wondered how in the world. It's called insanity. It's all I know to do is go back to the word insanity can't be explained.
yes,
To
yeah.
the way I look at it.
Some children just need more protection in certain homes than you can ever imagine. But thank you. How can we get your book and dive a little bit more into this powerful and emotional story?
Well, it's on sale at Amazon, and
Mm-hmm.
Barnes and Noble, and on my website that I had shared with you, The Wilderness Woman of Triumphant Spirit. It's on about 10 different bookstores for
Mm-hmm.
sale. And I have ebooks for sale also. And they're even on, they're having special sales on these books for the folks out there.
Okay. The title is so powerful. How did you come up with that name?
Well, like I said in the beginning, my safe place in life has always been out in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
we're out there in the wilderness, and I'm a naturalist. I do wildlife photography. I've been in equine therapy. I raised my own horses, and I've done a lot of things in the outside in nature. Has been the way the Lord has worked with me. And my horses were the main reason that I survived all of this. At age 12, I raised an old mare and had her bred. And the horses had a big chunk in my book on the positiveness of how horses can help you cope with all kinds of things, even adults that have problems, and then with young children. I help
Yes.
them with the equine therapy.
I have heard how horses can play a therapeutic role in healing. And you're saying that you agree.
Yes, the horses
Uh,
have an acute sense of their surroundings. They're a prey animal. They always can
yes.
hear things, they can see things, and it's just like me. I want to survive too. So I'm always aware of my surroundings. And horses, even though they are big animals, like you can get hurt, but you have to have guidelines to teach people where to stand and different techniques that you use to keep yourself safe from the big old animals. But they're wonderful animals, and so uh, I don't. I think there's a special connection between girls and horses. For some
Mm-hmm.
reason, I don't know. I experienced this unconditional love of a horse, and it
Mm-hmm.
has such a good effect on my life. Uh, and I know so many people are scared of horses, but
Yeah.
you got your dogs. They're unconditional love. Your kitty cats. And in my case, I'm raising two pot-bellied pigs. I rescue pot-bellied pigs now instead of horses.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I am going to start to wrap up this conversation, but I thank you for your transparency throughout this conversation.
Well, thank
Um,
you so much too.
yeah. So there are three questions that I like to ask my guests. And being that you have been through so much, these questions may land differently for you. But let me share, what's one bold promise that you can share with the audience?
Um, I think the biggest thing for me is that um, it takes a lot of courage to reach out for help, but there is a wonderful reward, and it kind of blossoms and progress as you get into your therapy, and keep chipping away and
Mm-hmm.
knock down those walls that you've built up around yourself. But I've also learned to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries are flexible and they're healthy for you.
Set boundaries. Thank you. What's a bold statement that you can share with the audience that will cause a paradigm shift?
I'm not sure what you mean by paradigm shift. What does
So,
that mean?
paradigms are habits that we consistently do, and they become part of our way of life because we do them so frequently. So you do them without even thinking, but they start from just creating new habits. So what kind of new habits that we can you can share with the audience that will cause them to have a different outlook on life?
Okay. Well, my old way of thinking was, for instance, I caused the divorce between my parents, my mom and dad. As a little child, um, I thought, now I've learned many years later that a lot of these things that happened to me are not my fault. And, but I have that lingering grip that stays with me occasionally is, uh, I caused this problem and it's all my fault. And I need to take a step back and say, wait a minute now, don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself.
Hmm.
Because I've had such a terrible beginning, I and I also like to give other people a second chance in life. I don't want to be so judgmental of someone. There's a reason why they're like that and they react that way. And I need to be patient with them and be a good support to them, even though maybe they said something that hurt me and they've gossiped about me.
Hmm.
I need to try to come along them and be a friend to them, even though they're an unhappy person and maybe kind of hard to be with, and set boundaries with them and not, not associate that I'm going to save their life or anything, you might say, but just to be a support to the underdog person.
Yes. Thank you. What is a bold move that you would like to make in the future?
Um, that's hard to come up with something right now. Um, you know, I I am not an extrovert person, and I noticed something lately that I've been doing. Like yesterday at church, I sat down. We have a place in our church where you eat snacks before church starts and talk and
Hmm.
visit. Well, I noticed uh, that I was sitting with my regular comfortable people I know, and I thought, well, no, Diane, get up and go sit at this other table. These people I've never seen before. And I got up and went and sat with them and just started chatting with them. And this is kind of hard for me to do, but I just jumped right up and excused myself from the table there and went and sat down with those people. And so I'm beginning, I'm kind of late in life doing this, but beginning to let people into my life and I'm reaching out and I tried to think of the certain questions when you ask somebody that you've seen for the first time, you ask them these certain questions. And as I did that, I was really comfortable in feeling uncomfortable and went ahead and did it and then come to find out they have similar things that I have had done or I know about, and then we could converse. It's hard for me to talk with someone else. Uh, so that's kind of where I'm coming from.
It's never
Not
too
any
late. Never too late to
right, better
learn
late
new
than
things.
never.
It's
You
never
know,
too late to learn new things and new
yeah,
ways to enjoy life. And
That's right. That's right.
it seems as though you have started to let your guard down and let your healing come through. Part of that inhibition to speak to people was because you couldn't trust people,
Right.
you know? But you have found a way to start your healing and to continue that healing process. So I'm happy for you,
Well,
Diane.
thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a
Thank you.
joy. Been a joy today talking with you and being able to share my story.
Yes, I appreciate it. Boy, I'm certainly glad that we pushed through the hurdles that we had this morning.
Yay! Yay!
Oh, we were patient and we are, reaping the seed of that patience because the world needed to hear your message and hear your story. So thank you. Thank you so much. Diane, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before you go?
Well, I uh, know it's really hard out there, you folks
Mm-hmm.
carrying heavy loads, but don't let the day go by.
Mm-hmm.
Your first step in reaching out for help, and maybe you won't do it today, but think
Mm-hmm.
about this and do it real soon in the future. Life's ticking away,
Mm-hmm.
and we want you to have a better life than what's happening right now. And there is somebody out there that can help you. There's more than one person that can help you chip away and get a better footing under your feet to go forwards.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Guys, this was an incredible, beautiful meeting, especially touching for me. Thank you. If there's anyone out there that has that nudge, that inclination, that little faint whisper that you need to write your book and tell your story, join us each week in the Writing Incubator. I help you get your ideas out of your head and publish so that people can get the message of your story, get the hope, get the inspiration, get the motivation, because your story matters and no one can share your story better than you. So if you're interested in writing your book, join our weekly writing incubator every Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom. Send me a message at authordnicholson@gmail.com and I will share with you how you can join. It's absolutely free. So come on and join us and learn to get your book idea out of your head and onto paper. Okay? All right. Thank you so much. And remember, I told you you can get a free week, maybe even two, at the Writing Incubator so you can learn how to share your story. Oh, this has been incredible. Thank you, Diane, for being
Yeah,
so transparent and for sharing your beautiful story and the strength of your beautiful story. Your story was tough. It was, had a lot of trauma, and you were able to overcome despite it. So that's the message I'm getting here, that no matter what you've gone through, you can overcome. There's a spirit of hope that we're all born with, a spirit of wanting to be healed, a spirit of success, a spirit of strength. And you, my friend, you have that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for joining us for the Bold Book of the Day with Dr. Denise Nicholson, a central hub and a safe space for authors to share their stories. Follow Dr. Denise on Facebook and Instagram at Denise Nicholson, or go to denisenicholson.com. Remember, no one can share your story better than you.